Hey, thank you, and welcome to another episode of the Love, Hope, Lyme podcast. My name is Fred Diamond. I'm the author of Love, Hope, Lyme, what family members, partners, and friends who love a chronic Lyme survivor need to know. Hey, by the way, you can find my book on Amazon. Again, Love, Hope, Lyme, what family members, partners, and friends who love a chronic Lyme survivor need to know. And of course, you could also find our guest, Jody Hudson's book, My Promise to Alex, on Amazon as well. So I've also made the e-version, Jody, of my book available free for chronic Lyme survivors. So if you're a chronic Lyme survivor, reach out to me via Facebook or LinkedIn, and I will send you the e-version of the book. As people know who've been listening to the Love, Hope, Lyme podcast, thank you. By the way, we transcribe every episode. Go to freddiamond.com and just click on the button that says Love, Hope, Lyme. You can read the transcription to my interview with Jody and all the past episodes as well. You know, when I wrote the book, Love, Hope, Lyme, I was fortunate to meet some amazing leaders in the Lyme community, doctors, medical practitioners, charity directors, and they've all helped me to understand what living with chronic Lyme is all about. So on the podcast, I've invited many of them to share their insights into how you can support those you love. And if you're a chronic Lyme survivor, the podcast will help you understand how you can let your family and friends support you, how you needed to be supported. And Jody, a number of people have reached out to me and thanked me for that particular angle, which I didn't expect in the beginning, but it gave them the opportunity to let their families know, not just what I'm going through as a chronic Lyme survivor, but how you can best support me. All right, my guest today is Jody Hudson. She's the author of My Promise to Alex, and she's, of course, leading the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation. And as many of our listeners know, because I've mentioned it, I also do a podcast for the global sales community called the Sales Game Changers Podcast. And I like to say I'm the only person who's brought the convergence of Lyme disease awareness and sales performance improvement to the podcast world. Jody was a guest on Sales Game Changers podcast, talking about a life of service and how a situation like what she went through led her to a life of service. You can read that transcription or listen to that show. Go to salesgamechangerspodcast.com/Jody Hudson, salesgamechangerspodcast.com/Jody Hudson. Jody, it's great to see you. I read your book. First of all, it's a tremendous book, not just about what your daughter went through, which we'll talk about, of course, and what you went through as her caregiver, but you also talked about your life and your challenges and things that you've gone through. And of course, towards the end of the book, you talked about how you committed your life to service and how you took, to be honest with you, a very tragic situation and turned it into good. And that's what we talked about on the Sales Game Changers podcast. And it's a quite fascinating story. And it's great to have you on this show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about what the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation is about, and just give us a little bit of an update.
Sure. Well, thank you again for having me on your podcast. You know, the Lyme community is such a wonderful, embracing community, and I'm so glad that you and I, we're able to meet through it. As we were saying earlier, we both could have taken our situations and not turn them into a positive, but we are, right? We're trying to help others with their journey. So in 2018, I lost my 22-year-old daughter to Lyme disease. And in the moment that she passed, I knew that I needed to carry on her legacy and also carry on her wishes of creating a Lyme Foundation, because as many, people that are watching and listening to this know, medical insurance doesn't cover a lot of the treatment. I myself, I know, spent over $10,000 in 1 year trying to get Alex better. So anyway, I, started the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation, where we grant financial grants to Lyme patients. And I really am trying to just carry out Alex's wishes and to, encourage others, motivate others that are going through this really horrific battle, that you are not alone and that there are plenty of people out there that want to support you and help you through this journey.
So the book is a lot of detail in the book. You talk about when you first became aware of what was going on and just like so much of the medical experiences that Alex went through, that you went through with her. Where are you right now? I'm just kind of curious. How do you feel right now? It's been a number of years. You're back in Fresno, and you have a full-time job. You have a life. I'm just kind of curious. Tell us where you are right now.
So you know what? I wish I could quit my day job and just devote 100% of my time to this, because this is really where my passion in this is. This is really where my purpose is. And especially, having written this book, and when I go out and speak to others, the impact, Fred, that you and I have with these books, it's just so meaningful. And I know that that's where I need to be, but at the same time, I have to pay the bills. So until I get that, lottery winning, I will continue to do my day job, which I love. And I'm very blessed to have that. But yeah, I mean, as we look at May with Lyme Disease Awareness Month coming up, I mean, my focus is being reset for that. I'm really trying to continue to, create that education and awareness. I think that we've come a long way from 2018, even 2017, when my daughter was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I asked, what is Lyme disease? I now, could be a doctor in that. So we've come a long way. I'm still as motivated and passionate about, doing what I am doing. And like I said, I get so encouraged when I speak to others, and people come up to me after I talk and, bare their soul with me. And when you have that put on you, how can you not continue doing what you are doing? Especially when you realize the impact that you are making. So I'm very blessed, very fortunate.
No, that's great. And actually, a lot of people know one of my favorite quotes is the Einstein quote, "Only a life lived in the service of others is a life worth living."
Yes.
So I just want to acknowledge you for that. We'll talk more about it. So again, the audience typically of the podcast are family members, partners, and friends who love a chronic Lyme survivor. What are 3 things that those people, family members, partners, and friends, need to know about what their loved one is going through?
So one of the first things is, don't expect to understand what they are going through, because many times Lyme patients don't understand it themselves. My daughter was, trying to help me along with her own journey and her own process, but she couldn't communicate a lot of times, what she was feeling, how she was going to be feeling. She was figuring that out along with, her treatment. So don't expect to understand what they are going through, because they themselves don't, always know what they are going through. And with that, you have to give them grace. It's not their fault if they can't show up for a family event. If they say today on Friday, hey, I'm going to meet you, tomorrow for coffee at 11 o'clock, and they cancel an hour before, you have to realize that their system, their body is changing all the time. So they could have a good day. The next day is not going to be so great. They could have a good hour. The next hour is not going to be so great. So definitely making sure that you are giving them grace in that, moment. And don't ask all the time when they're going through treatment, hey, how's the treatment going? Like, is this changing? You've just increased your medication, or you've just, taken this on, or you just had a red light therapy or a massage, whatever, how is that? I remember I used to do that all the time, thinking I was encouraging my daughter, but it actually was working against her, because she was getting anxious and angst, like, oh my gosh, I'm not, responding. I'm not, moving along quickly in this treatment. So let them kind of, be the person to fill you in.
It's interesting. When I was writing the book, when I decided to learn what somebody in my life was going through, I came across the stat which said 75% of relationships ended or terminated when someone has chronic Lyme disease or a deep chronic illness like that. And 95% of the cases were the spouse or the partner who basically said, I'm out of here. You're not who you were years ago. I didn't buy off on this, if you will. But you as a mother, you're not going to leave your child. That was never a decision. So what is the best way to support a chronic Lyme survivor, knowing that it's not easy? And I loved your answer a second ago, where they don't even know where the journey is going to take them.
Yeah. Alex, she lost all of her friends. I mean, when you're in relationships with people, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, you have to give, right? You have to, show up for that relationship. When somebody has a chronic illness, they can't even show up for themselves. They have nothing to give. You have to be pouring into them. So I was not only her mother, I was her best friend. So, we need to make sure that we are realizing that with those with chronic illness, their support system gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And in my case, sometimes they only have that one person. So you have to, fulfill many roles. And it was heartbreaking. So yeah, just being there and showing up for them, because they cannot show up for themselves most of the time.
So your book has touched so many people. You and I are Facebook friends, so not infrequently I'll see you speaking to doctors and at organizations, and it's beautiful to see that people come up to you with a copy of your book, et cetera. What is your advice for those who are supporting a chronic Lyme survivor not to do?
Oh
Or
gosh.
what shouldn't they be doing?
Well, what they shouldn't be doing is kind of what I touched on a little bit, expecting them to be normal and being hard on them, right? We have structure in our lives. I mean, I get up in the, early in the morning, I go to the gym, I do this, I do that. It's a normal schedule. When you have chronic illness, there's nothing normal about your life. So again, giving them the grace. My daughter, who had a full ride scholarship to UCLA, couldn't go to college. She was trying to do it online, and we were trying to, do things to have her appear like she was having a normal life, when we knew that it was the furthest from the truth, right?
Yeah. What should they expect as the journey continues? Again, like you mentioned, again, you in your book, My Promise to Alex, you go into so much detail, almost like on a daily basis, of what Alex went through and the various doctors that she saw, and some of the for lack of a better word, disruptions, I should say, where things were moving along and then they ended because it wasn't helping, if you will. What's your advice to the supporters as their loved one goes through this journey? And I hate using the word journey, but as they go on with their lives.
Right. So healing is not linear. Healing is ebbs and flows, right? It's not thinking, okay, I do this and then this comes next, where if someone has cancer, the tried and true treatment, right? With Lyme disease, it's like you have a buffet and you can select from this, you can choose from that. That's just with, your medications and treatments and doctors, but there's a whole other layer of different treatments that Lyme patients go through. So just remembering that, it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that you think that they're getting, better, but then they could regress, and it could be, who knows, it could be a food that they've eaten that they've never had an allergic reaction to before. It could be a sense, a smell. My daughter, unfortunately, developed mast cell activation syndrome, which is very common with those that have a compromised immune system. So that really, truly is what she died from, because she can even have water. I mean, imagine, our bodies need water. There's only one brand of water that she could, her system could tolerate. She was down to 4 different foods. Most foods caused her a reaction. So yeah, definitely healing is not linear. Celebrate the successes, definitely, be there and encouraging them, and then be there supporting them when they have those setbacks, because there's going to be a lot of setbacks.
Jody, before I ask you for your final bit of advice, your final tips, I do encourage people to go read the book. I read it. I actually bought the Kindle version, and I read it on the Kindle version. Then you and I talked, and of course I had you on the podcast. If you don't mind my asking, can you give us a sense of your daughter? Not as the Lyme patient, but as your daughter.
So it's funny you asked me that, because just today on Facebook, you know how they have those memories that pop up?
Yes.
And this summed up my daughter. It was a picture of her about 8-9 years ago. And she had such a servant's heart. I was working at Catholic Charities during the time that this picture was taken, and we did a lot of food drives and a lot of, feeding of the poor. And Alex felt most comfortable being with the homeless. She just felt a connection with them because she knew that they were wounded. And here she would, be wounded herself years later with Lyme disease. But there's this beautiful picture of her just standing there giving out food. And that was Alex. She had such a servant's heart. She always wanted to give more than receive. And even at the end, she was, returning emails and texts from people that were reaching out to her in the Lyme community. She wanted to be there for them. And she was trying to do everything that she could from her bed. And that's why, the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation is so important to me, because this definitely is Alex's foundation. I'm just the human individual here running it, but she really is the one from above that's, guiding me in everything that I do. So thank you for asking that question, because that was something that just came up today. I'm like, yep, this picture says it all.
Yeah. And actually, like I mentioned, you and I are Facebook friends, and I actually saw that as well. I do have one last question before I ask you for your final thoughts. So again, for the family members, the partners, the spouses, the friends listening, how did you personally, Jody Hudson, how did you get through this? Again, you go into very detailed, excruciating detail about what was going on, like almost like from a moment by moment basis, and page after page, and it was so beautifully and graphically written. And I've heard similar things from so many people that I've met who talked about their journey of trying to find solace and trying to find treatment and cure. But how did you, as her mother, as the human being, Jody Hudson, what were some things that you did to allow you to survive when you see your child, someone who you love so dearly, as many people listening are similarly going through? Just give us a little bit, some insights into how did you take care of Jody Hudson? So here you are today. We're doing today's interview in winter of 2023. You're doing great. You're working, you look great. You have the book out there, you're speaking. How did you take care of yourself?
Well, people that really know me know that I'm defined by my faith. And if I did not have my faith, I definitely could not have moved forward in this whole process. But also, I'm a mama bear, right? And people out there listening that have to deal with things that happen with their children, we just get her done. Whatever it takes, you're going to do it. I think that the most challenging thing for me is I'm also a fixer person. I want to fix everything. I have this control issue and I could not fix her disease, and it drove me bananas. I mean, sometimes I would just take off in my car and just go for a ride, because I could not let Alex see me crumbling, because I was the only person, not her father wasn't in the picture. Her brother was off at school. She had no friends. So I was that one person, the caretaker, the cheerleader, the supporter, the everything. And I always had to have my game face on. But there were private moments where I went and I banged my hands on the, dashboard and said, God, I can't take this any longer. Like, you either take her or heal her, because this in between is purgatory. It is not working for me. And so, yeah, it was hard, but I kept drawing back into my faith, and I kept drawing into Alex, because as strong as you may think I am today, my daughter never once took pain medication. She was suffering so terribly, but she wanted to be so present for everything that was happening to her. And she wanted to be so present for those people that were reaching out to her for support, that she never took pain medication. So when I think even today on my worst days where I'm like, gosh, this just really sucks, I miss my daughter, I think of that strength that she always displayed, and it just really propels me to move forward without complaint, and just to be grateful for the blessings that I have, because there still are so many wonderful blessings.
Yeah, that's I didn't recall that, but the her wanting to be present for everything was going through. I mean, if you think about someone who's in their early 20s or late teens, and they're just discovering life, right? Yeah, you mentioned she was getting ready to go to college, but she couldn't scholarship. Good for her. It's like there's so many things that are happening. And then you throw something like this in there, and it just continues to help us understand how challenging of a disease this is. The other thing that you just said that I've touched on a bunch of times throughout the Love, Hope, Lyme podcast, and I talk about this in my book, is this isn't a business problem, right? You know, a lot of us who are supporting people with chronic illness, you know, we have our jobs, we're professionals. If there's a business problem, what do? You write up the problem on a whiteboard, you bring the team in, you brainstorm for a little bit. All right, what are 5 things we're going to do to solve this problem? Let's get back in 2 weeks. We need someone from operations, somebody from finance. Boom, problem's going to be solved. And then you meet again in 2 weeks, and either it's solved or what went right, what went wrong. You know, you can't treat your loved ones Lyme disease like that. It doesn't work that way. There's so many factors. You're going to have great days, you could have tough days, and you always got to be present. That was a great answer, Jody. I just want to acknowledge you again. I'm so happy for me that I discovered you and read the book, My Promise to Alex. I'm so I want to let you know how amazing it is that so many people have read the book, have participated and donated to the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation. You've done so many amazing things for so many people. Like I said, I've seen some of your Facebook posts, and it's nice to see 100, 200 people in the room listening to you. And you've also educated doctors as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's something we've touched on also is, I'm not going to go into it here, but, you know, I had a conversation with an infectious disease doctor who actually is a friend of my family, who wanted to talk to me about what I discovered. And you would think, well, don't you know this already? But the reality is they don't. They're specialized. Some just don't believe it even exists for a whole bunch of different reasons, which we've touched on in other places. But I just want to acknowledge you for everything you're doing, everything you're continue to do, and for the love that you gave to your daughter and telling her story. Give us a final action tip, an idea, something you want to make sure that we know before we close down today.
Yes, you know what? And I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure that I got this right. This is from Allie Hilfinger. She was a speaker at one of my Tea for Alex fundraisers when we were still doing events and in-person things a couple of years ago. And we talked about this belief, you know, believing in people's symptoms, because so many doctors did not believe in Alex. I mean, she was placed in a psych lockdown because they didn't, you know, believe in her. So when Allie got up and spoke, she said this. She said, "You keep people in their pain by ignoring them, diminish pain by acknowledging the pain and validating them." How powerful is that? And I think about that all the time. We need to believe in them. It's an invisible disease. We can't see it. So sometimes it's very hard for us to understand what they are going through, but just believe them, right? Believe in their symptoms, believe in what they are going through, believe in their journey, and it will help them.
Yeah, chronic Lyme is definitely real. And I also read her book, of course, Tommy Hilfiger's daughter, Allie Hilfiger. So I'm glad you mentioned her. Once again, Jody Hudson, thank you so much. My name is Fred Diamond. This is the Love, Hope, Lyme podcast.